ओम गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुस्साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. Om Om. Today we study and discuss little bit of Moola Vidya Nirasa. Okay, it is too late, but time is up. It will do at least half an hour or 45 minutes, as much as we can. So next point, 23rd point. In the second chapter, beginning of the second chapter, the first small section, the topic was Paramarthika Swarupa Asiddhi. So in view of Moola Vidyavadi, in view of Vyakhyana Vedanta, Paramarthika Satta cannot be established. That means where is Paramartha? Is it there or not? You only assume that the Jagat is born, waking is born of ignorance. Jagat is born of ignorance, and therefore it goes away by knowledge. So instead of referring it to Swarupa, Paramarthika Swarupa, you have to show the very nature of Paramarthika reality, the absolute reality. And with the help of it, you can say how the waking is not Paramarthika, because Paramarthika has to be like this. What is Paramartha has to be like this. If this is Paramartha, then anything has this character. Anything that has this nature can be called Paramarthika. So Paramarthika is a self-existing standard, self-existing, it is a self-shining, it is a universal experience, it must be. But they don't refer Paramarthika reality. Paramarthika reality, they assume that it is there, it will come only later, only Jnani will get it. Only Jnani has it, all others don't have Paramarthika reality in their experience. Now, what is a universal truth? It is a surprising that a universal truth, self-existing fact, it is not there in everybody's experience. What is universal truth must be a matter of everybody's experience. You must have not watched it, you must have not noted it, you must have not discerned it, but it must be there in everybody's experience. The absolute truth, Paramarthika truth, it must be there in universal experience. So then only all other experiences other than Paramartha Tattvam, all other things fall short of that Paramarthik nature. All of them are unlike Paramarthik nature or fall short of definition of Paramarthik nature. So none of them constitutes that Paramarthik nature, because the waking, dream and everything else falls short of it. This can be shown easily based upon your experience, based upon observation of your experience. See, Vedanta is observation of our experiences. The truth is self-evident. Truth is self-evident. And only there is a mistake, there is a misunderstanding that other experiences, limited experiences, tentative experiences, false experiences got mixed up, imposed upon the real experience called Atma or the Paramarthik reality. So Paramarthik reality, which is a universal experience, must be there. But if Paramarthik reality, where is it? If you can't define, if you can't show it, then you can't take it as a standard. Then every other experience is a limited, false, wrong, you cannot say. That is the right way of doing. The right way of doing is show the Paramarthik reality and then say how the waking and other experiences don't live up to that, don't has that character, that nature of Paramarthik reality, then automatically that becomes false. But instead of doing it, they say Paramarthik reality is not matter of our experience. Then it is a blind spot, it is a dark spot. You don't know where is it, whether it is there or not. Where is it? Nobody knows. And they say you have to, first thing is they say only the waking is unreal because it is born of ignorance. Now you create a theory. that there is called avidya, a particular type of avidya, positive ignorance that has produced it, and it will go by knowledge. Both are assumptions. That it is produced by a positive ignorance, that it will go away by knowledge, both of them have to be believed. But the actual reality is not touched at all. And then they say that a jnani's anubhava, Tattvajnanis, the enlightened people, the wise men, they know the truth. There again, there are a lot of complications, lot of problems in it. Actual problems, logical problems, every problem in it. First thing is, how do you know who is a jnani? There are many saints, many mystics claiming to have known the truth. But each one talks of the truth as different. There is no matching of the truth which they seem to have intuited. They have got their own different truths. So which one is the truth? Which one is the paramarthic truth? How do you know? If you go by personal experience, this will be the problem. But we say that the paramarthic reality has to be a universal experience. It can't be a personal experience. Okay. Second thing is, if jnani, but thing is, everybody doesn't accept who is a jnani, he cannot be accepted. But second thing, in your view, in view of that Mula Vidya Vadins, even jnani has a little bit of ajnanam. Jnani knows the truth, but after knowing the truth, he continues to live like an ordinary man. He lives in the waking state in order to teach others. In order to teach others, he lives in a waking state. He lives in a waking state, and he has a body, mind, and intellect, and he is an individual. As an individual, he teaches this. This creates further problem. If he is an individual living like an ordinary man and carries a certain degree of ajnana, then that means he himself has not understood that the waking is unreal, that his individuality is unreal, he has not understood. Because if he continues to be an individual, then he has not transcended individuality. He has not understood the sense of individuality is a mithya. Without understanding, then what he talks is going to be wrong. He himself doesn't understand. How does he teach others? Okay. Then second point is that jnani, then how does he come to have waking state and then also individuality and prarabdha and all that? He says that because of a trace of ignorance being left out in him. Here the very nature of ignorance is thoroughly confusing. How that a nature of ignorance, a bigger part, a major part of ignorance goes away with knowledge, but in spite of the knowledge, a trace of ignorance remains. It is a surprising. The very nature, go by the nature of knowledge and ignorance. The very nature of knowledge and ignorance is they are opposite to each other. Where there is a knowledge, ignorance can't exist, can't survive. The very dawn of knowledge means disappearing of ignorance. The very dawn of knowledge means disappearance of ignorance. Okay? Dawn of knowledge means disappearance of ignorance. So, but he says, even after the dawn of knowledge, a trace of ignorance remains. How? So, this questions the very opposition. This questions the very capacity of knowledge, the nature of knowledge. So, it is like a darkness. How can the darkness coexist with light? They say, yes, it does coexist. The darkness does coexist with light. So, this questions the foundation of the very nature of knowledge and the light and darkness. This misrepresents or misunderstands the very nature of light and darkness. If the nature of light is to dispel the darkness, darkness can't exist with light. But they say darkness is not simply absence of light. Okay, now you see they have to take such a stand, which is simple hypothesis, which is away from our experience. Common experience, everybody's experience. They say darkness is not simply absence of light. If it were absence of light, then when there is light, there is no darkness. When there is darkness, there is no light, we can say. But he says, darkness is not simply absence of light, but it is another substance, a positive substance opposite to light, he says. It is another substance other than light. It is not absence of light. It is something, a positive substance, parallel to light, opposite to light. Where is it? It is just a wild imagination. And moreover, after accepting that it is a positive, darkness is positive, and ignorance is also positive substance. And after the dawn of knowledge, that knowledge coexists with the darkness, light coexists with the darkness, and knowledge coexists with ignorance, and keeps on fighting. It keeps fighting over a period of time until the death of the body. After the death of the body, then completely ignorance goes away. This is totally wrong. This we have discussed in the day before yesterday's class also. In these things, whole thing is wrong. It's a wild imagination against experience, and it undermines, it rejects, it ignores the very nature of light and darkness. Ignores the very nature of light and darkness and imagines a big hypothesis. This hypothesis doesn't help. In fact, it complicates the situation. It makes the situation more complicated. Okay. Therefore, that after the death of the body, wide jnanam as it dawns, no ignorance can exist. Right now he is Brahman. Right now his experience, that jnani's experience is, I am Brahman, there is nothing other than me. There is nothing other than me. I am the only Brahman, directly Brahman he is. Because the truth is self-evident and self-existing fact. It doesn't need to wait for the fall of the body. Does he imply that the body is an obstruction for his moksha? Does body delay his attainment of moksha? Though he gained knowledge, does the body and world prevent him from attaining moksha? That means body is coming in the way of Brahman. When the whole body is only a misunderstanding of Brahman, you correct the misunderstanding, you are Brahman right now. No body, no world, nothing prevents you. Nothing delays you, nothing obstructs you. This is the misunderstanding they have, because the body is, the right thing is that the body doesn't come in the way. It never exists from the standpoint of Brahman. From the standpoint of Atma, there is no body other than it. Body, world and everything, time, space, all that is Brahman alone. So when Brahman is self-existing on its own, it doesn't depend upon falling of the body. It doesn't get obstructed by the body. Atma's nature as being Brahman is not obstructed by the presence of body, nor it waits for the body to fall so that it can become Brahman. Is Brahmatvam a conditional state? That body has to fall in order to become Brahman? Is Brahmatvam, is being Brahman a conditional state where that body has to fall, then only I will become Brahman? So, imagining Brahmatvam as a conditional state is also the defect of them. Okay? Brahmatvam is not a conditional state. It is self-existing, universal fact, self-evident fact. It is there any time, whether you know it or not. It is there. It is a universal, you only have to discover it, but it is there all along. The moment you discover, you never had any ignorance, you never had body, you never had the world and all those things. You have been and you are even now the same universal truth. Okay, this is the point. They miss it. Therefore, they have taken a wrong stand in Vedanta. So, waiting for the fall of the body, and before that a trace of ignorance going with him, and a trace of prarabdha, and a certain trace of prarabdha, and a trace of the world, all that surviving. That means his very Advaitam suffers. Very Advaitam is not established. Because if Atma is accompanied by a small degree of world, a small degree of the body, and some prarabdha and something, These are all external, superficial things. They can't prevent, they can't obstruct Atma being Brahman. Atma being Brahman is an unconditional universal fact. Doesn't depend upon anything. It is a universal, and it is, even now it is. Atma being Brahman is a universal fact, doesn't depend upon anything. Okay. Therefore, that it waits for the body to fall, it is for the, see, falling of the body is required for those who want to go to Brahmaloka. The other world, highest world is Brahmaloka. So if you have to go to another loka, you are in this loka, you have to wait for the fall of the body, and then you have to travel to that other world. But Brahman is a self-existing fact, a self-evident fact. It is an unconditional truth. It doesn't depend upon the condition of anything, world and all other things. Because world itself doesn't come in the way of being Brahman. Atma being Brahman is not a conditional fact. It is a universal fact. Therefore, world doesn't come in the way. World neither obstructs it, nor it clears the way by going away. World goes or doesn't go doesn't make any difference, because it doesn't exist from the standpoint of Atma. Because it is only a false appearance of Brahman. That too from the standpoint of Ajnana alone. From the worldly standpoint alone, that world seems to be there, that I seem to be an ignorant and all that. I seem to be an ignorant from the very standpoint of ignorance. The truth itself is free from ignorance, free from world, free from duality. It is self-existing fact. This is straight away, this is the straight Upanishad, teaching of the Upanishads, and Gaudapada, Shankara, Sureshwara too talk of the same thing, and it is in keeping with our experience also. Anybody can verify. Anybody can see it for himself. Because deep sleep is a direct experience. Deep sleep is not a result of something. It is a natural state. In Taittiriya Bhashyam Bhasha, Purvapaksha says the same thing. Deep sleep is a state acquired due to some factor. Due to some factor, he says no factor is required. It is natural. That deep sleep, non-duality in deep sleep is natural. It is not due to any factor. Neither due to some factor helping you, nor some factor, nor some obstruction going away. No obstruction need to go, because there is no obstruction. No obstruction need to go. Nothing need to go, because it has never been an obstruction for Atma being non-dual Brahman. It is a self-existing, self-established fact. This is what one needs to understand. The book is highly technical, but if you contemplate, go deeply into the text, it is directly touching the Atma Swarupam. So it is a good contemplative book for the seeker who wants to know the truth. Though he's comparing their concepts, their ideas, their prakriyas, their methods of teaching, he's comparing. But don't go by just comparison, because that is all technical details, that is all bookish details. But even in those ideas, in those contrasting ideas, in those prakriyas, contrasting prakriyas, there is a real deeper Vedanta in it. If you look at that, if you look at Vedantic truth, it is revealed even through these things. It's not simply polemical book, means a refutation of others through logic. Though it is logic, Swamiji never misses the truth, never indulges in unnecessary logic and only refutation and all. Even through that, he reveals the truth only. Directly he points out the truth only. Otherwise, why should I take up this Mula Vidya Nirasaya if it were only purely polemical work? It is also a Vedantic book. It directly reveals the truth. By observing, by self-examination, you come to discover your truth and see that there is no obstruction. No world, no body, nothing ever, neither is obstructing now, nor it has obstructed before. Even the world and the body and etc., they never obstructed the Atma being Brahman, because it never exists from the standpoint of Atma. It is only a misunderstood. Atma misunderstood, Brahman misunderstood is a body, mind and sense organs and the world. Simply it is a misunderstanding, like a snake. Snake never obstructs the rope from being rope. This is a very, very interesting illustration. Snake never obstructs, never comes in the way of rope being a rope. Rope is a rope, not due to any factor. Not that snake is permitting or snake is obstructing. The perception of the snake neither obstructs it, nor the snake permits it by moving away. Whether snake moves away or not, itself is immaterial. Rope is a self-existing fact. It doesn't depend upon any condition, any factor. Snake has to go away, that is a condition. Even the snake existing, going away, both are imaginary. Snake existing and going away, both are imposed on the rope. From the standpoint of rope, both of them don't exist. Neither the presence of rope or going away of the rope. Both of them don't exist for the rope. Rope is rope. Rope is rope throughout its existence. All along, naturally, unconditionally, it is rope. Not helped, not obstructed by snake or nor permitted by snake. Helped by snake to become rope. Does snake help the rope to become rope? Or did it obstruct before that it has to help it now? The world and the body and sense organs, neither they obstruct nor they help you, because they don't mean anything to the Atma, because they are only false appearance of the Atma, wrong appearance. They are only errors of the Atma, that too from the standpoint of error alone. They are only false appearances from the standpoint of falsehood. In reality, in the Atman, they have no existence at all apart from Atma. They are nothing but Atma. They have no existence. Therefore, where is the question of their obstructing? So, these Vyakhyanakaras have given too much of importance to the worldly standpoint, the standpoint of snake. They took it, snake is something substantially existing there. It is obstructing. It has to be removed, and it has to be broken. It has to be shattered. It has to be destroyed. You take snake as something real, something material, that it has to be removed so that you can reach the rope. Rope is in another state you have to reach. Rope is not a state. It is a universal fact, self-existing, self-evident fact. That you are Brahman is a self-existing, self-evident fact. It doesn't need the world and the body and everything to whether go away or doesn't go away, because they don't exist at all. When they don't exist, where is the question of their going away or their coming? Neither they're existing nor they're going away. Both of them are immaterial. Both of them have no existence at all. This is the Vedanta. That Brahman is self-existing and unconditional existence. Okay? And therefore, you only have to shift your standpoint. From the rope, rope is only a thought. Snake is only a thought. From the snake, you have to shift it to the rope. Similarly, world and your individuality. You being an individual and the world, they are only thoughts. That too a wrong thought. See, you are an individual surrounded by the world. Whole this waking state is only a thought. The thought is only a wrong thought. See, it is a thought, not a real substance. Second point is, it is a thought about Atma alone, but it is a wrong thought about Atma. About the non-dual Atman, it is a wrong thought. The moment you pay attention to the Atman, that it is a wrong thought ceases to be there. Why ceases? It never existed even before. It never existed even before. Even now it ceases to be there, because not that it existed before, body and the world and the state, and later it ceases to be. You come to understand that it has never been there, neither before nor now. You have not removed, you only have understood. There is only you have understood that there is only non-dual Brahman without any second thing. Not that you reach Brahman after eliminating duality. It's not that you need to eliminate duality and reach non-duality. Duality is not a factor which is obstructing to understand non-duality, because it's not a factor at all. It is a thought, and that too a false thought. False thought is also an explanation for a student. Otherwise, it doesn't exist. In your Anubhava, it doesn't exist even that. It is only a teaching. It is only an explanation, teaching for the student. Otherwise, even that is not required. Therefore, duality need not be removed because it never existed. Where is the question of removing? You come to understand duality has never been there. It has never obstructed, and therefore there is no need to remove it because it never existed. Where is the question of removing? Non-duality has been there. It has been the fact. It is now. It is eternal. It is ever existing fact. Self-evident, ever existing fact. This is Vedanta. This is Advaita. Okay, therefore they make that the duality as a big factor, obstructive factor. It is an obstructing and you have to remove. Now you start taking that it is really obstructing and really you have to remove. There is no obstruction, there is no removal. Okay, all that is only for sake of teaching. As long as you are within this confusion, there is just a tentative teaching. It is a tentative teaching to help you to understand that neither there was a duality nor you need to remove. This is a real understanding. The removal of duality means you understand it has never been there. That is the only way of removing. Because it never existed. Understanding that it did not exist, it never existed, itself is its removal. Because it doesn't exist. Though it doesn't exist, appears as if it is there. That is adhyasa. That is a misunderstanding. That is adhyasa, that is misunderstanding, that is ajnanam, where there is only non-duality, but it appears as if it is there, as if there is duality. The duality is only a thought, a wrong thought about the very non-duality. Then where is the question? Where is the question of duality, obstructing it, therefore you have to remove it. On the condition of removal of duality, then you reach Advaita. You think Advaita is a state? You have to reach there? It is a conditional state. Now you are elsewhere, you have to go to another place. Time, place, all are only confusion. All are within error alone. Time, place, condition, relationship, all these are within misconception alone. Brahman is a non-dual, purely non-dual. Oh, how beautiful it is. The very sentence it liberates you. The very thought of it liberates you, because there is nothing other than you. Therefore, this is what Swamiji, following Shankara, strictly he follows Shankara, directly touches you. Directly touches the Swarupam. So don't wait for something to be removed as if that is obstructing you. Duality or the world and the body. They say Jnani is an enlightened man. He is a Jivan Mukta, living liberated. Yet he has got a body, it has got the world and that. And he has to wait for the body to go away so that he will become Advaita. This looks a very good story, but it is all childish. Okay? It convinces certain people, how beautifully he told, yes, body is real true, body is real obstruction. We have to wait for the body to, somehow we have to kill the body, you have to remove the body. It is like thinking of planning to kill the snake so that rope will be saved. In order to save the rope, you have to kill the snake. Is the snake ever obstructing? Did you ask the rope that whether you are suffering from the snake? Is the snake overweighing upon you, sitting upon you? Is the snake giving trouble to you? Did you ever ask the rope that the snake is obstructing it, that snake is coming in the way of rope being a rope? Rope to become a rope, the snake is coming in the way, and the snake has to be killed and destroyed and burnt and then do all sorts of things so that the rope can be saved. Rope, you ask the rope, he says, what snake? Where is the snake? I have been rope. I have never complained that I have got some problem. I have never complained. I have been rope only. I have been always free. I have been always mukta. Moksha is my very nature. Nobody can take away. And there is nothing other than me to take away also. I have been whole thing. I have been totally free. There is no factor other than me that can either take away or give back my moksha. Neither it can take away my moksha nor give back my moksha. Because if somebody can take away and give back, then somebody becomes more important and more powerful than Atma. Okay? If somebody, this is how the Dvaitins interpret Advaita. If you say due to ignorance Dvaita came, and then by Jnanam Dvaita goes away, that means that the Ajnanam is more powerful than Brahman. This is how they interpret. That Ajnanam is more powerful than Brahman, that it can pose problem to Brahman, that it make him Jiva, and then he make him to suffer samsara, and later Ajnana, by taking pity and Brahman, he will move away and then liberate him. This looks like a Sankhya Prakriya. Sankhya's talk like that. Prakriti binds the Atma, and then Prakriti itself takes pity and liberates him by moving away. This is how the Sankhya's Prakriya is. You must have heard already. At least those who have heard know it. So this is the way. This is all childish. Because childish in the sense you have not understood the very nature of Atman. You think that Atma is really bound and it has to be liberated. Liberation is another state it is going to acquire. It is not a state. It is the very nature of Atma. How beautiful it is. Liberation is the very nature of Atma. Liberation is synonymous with Atma. It's not that Atma is going to be liberated. Liberation is your nature. I am liberation. Liberation is me. Liberation is another name for me. So Atma is ever free. It is never bound. Atma never complains that it is suffering from ignorance. Atma never complains that it is suffering from ignorance. It is suffering from samsara. It is suffering from body, mind and pain and pleasure and birth and death and all. Atma doesn't know at all. Doesn't know means Atma doesn't have all these things at all. Atma is ever free. And its freedom is self-evident fact. Unconditional and self-evident. Neither there is anything that can take away the freedom and also give back the freedom. Taking away, giving back, these are all prakriya. For our understanding, we present that it is due to ignorance, there is a bondage. So the thought of ignorance only means it helps you to observe, it helps you to inquire. That's all. To encourage you to inquire. On inquiry, you understand there was no ignorance. Where is the question of removal? It is not that there is ignorance, you inquire and remove the ignorance. We don't say that. Shastra doesn't say there is ignorance, you inquire and you remove ignorance and you will reach Brahman. You inquire. That the thought of ignorance only, the idea of ignorance only makes you to inquire. On inquiry, you understand there was never an ignorance. You have been already free and you are free even now. Oh, then what is ignorance and going away? There is neither ignorance nor going away. Both are false. False means both never exist. You are already free. This is Vedanta. Okay? It only shifts your vision, shifts your standpoint of way of looking at yourself. You are looking at yourself wrongly. That wrong looking is a problem. That wrong standpoint is also from the wrong standpoint. From the standpoint of Atma, there is no wrong or right. Atma is Atma all the time. So, though we say that there is an ignorance, yet Atma doesn't have an ignorance. We talk of ignorance only from the standpoint of ignorance. In the Atman, there is no question of ignorance at all. Atma is ever free. Atma is ever free, free from ajnana or ignorance. It is always free. It is self-evident fact. That is the only fact that helps us to solve the problem which never existed. You come to discover there was never a problem. There was never a problem. You are already free. You have been free and you are free. This understanding is the freedom. Okay. It's a natural, spontaneous, self-existing, self-evidence freedom. See how people miss. So it has to be learned from a right traditional teacher. If you don't get a right tradition, there are some wrong traditions also. So because in India everything is free. Anybody, there are many teachers, many gurus, anybody teaches whatever he thinks is right. Go and search for yourself. Don't stick to one thing. Go and search for yourself to find out. Whichever appeals to your anubhava, you will come to understand what is right. Therefore, people say that Shankaracharya followers, why don't they go and teach all over the world? If those who are interested, they will come. If they don't come, doesn't matter. They come at their own time when they realize. So, truth saves itself. Truth doesn't depend upon anything. Therefore, we are relaxed. We are not worried. We have no anxiety. We have no what you call that missionary spirit of talking to people and forcing anybody. Because truth is self-evident. Those are interested, those who have taste for it, those who have discovered its value for it, those who have discovered a value for it, they'll come. Because nothing short of your Brahmatvam can please you, can make you happy. Anything less than Brahmatvam makes you miserable. Maybe subtle misery. Even if you have some upasana and etc., Brahmaloka, you may avoid a lot of misery, but there will be a subtle misery, subtle displeasure, subtle dissatisfaction. All dissatisfaction goes away. You become completely free only by knowing the truth. Only in Advaita truth alone you are free. Therefore, your own heart pinches you. Your own heart pinches you, makes you to search for it until you get a right guru of Advaita. Because who is to protect you? Your own heart pinches you. Because your own heart, because your natural state is your Brahmatvam, and you won't be happy with anything less than your understanding yourself to be Brahman. Okay? So your own heart pinches you. If you say that you are not Brahman, that's all. That itself will haunts you. It will give trouble to you. You will be running like a dog, mad dog, for something you don't know what you want. But something I'm missing, you keep running. And luckily, if you get a teacher, because your mind itself runs, searches, your very sincere search will help you to find a right guru. Thing is, you have to search. That's the only condition. Sincerely search for it. Because the very search makes you discover what is wrong. Wrong tradition is wrong tradition. People say that, but there are wrong tradition, what to do that? Like Islam and Christianity, you kill the people, the heretics and all people. Oh, don't allow them or kill them, destroy their books. We don't destroy books, we don't kill anybody. But we allow them also. If they want to teach, let them teach. We don't bother. Because what protects you is your own heart. Your Atma, your real nature of Atma won't be satisfied until you know the real truth. Anything less than truth won't satisfy you. It keeps on haunting you. You'll be running for something you will be searching for it. That itself will help you. That is the only way. Therefore, we are relaxed. We means, I mean tradition. Traditional teachers, but those who are sincerely approach, of course, teaching is there, always ready for them. For the right people, for right students, those who are sincerely searching for it, it is always there. So, this much freedom should be made available in the society. We work for that. That much of freedom should be there, that let people think and understand, question and learn and keep growing. Searching and keep growing, that much freedom should be given. If they close down all opportunities of searching and believe my dogma and you can't search, you can't think, you can't question, then that is a different problem. That is a socio-political problem. Then we have to protect the society and culture. Okay? That much of protection is required. Now India is suffering from that. There is an attack from all around, invasion. So now it is a freedom, but we don't know, any time we may lose it, as Pakistan and Bangladesh have lost. They have lost the freedom. Now they are reeling under the pressure of those people, those dogmatic people. So our freedom works only when there is a social freedom is there. That means in a society when there is a freedom of thinking, understanding and questioning, searching. Okay, that much we have to protect in the society. Remaining Vedanta does the job. Okay, the next point, Bhava Jnana Swarupa Asiddhi. Next topic we take up. So in the second chapter alone, next topic from the 23rd passage to the 31st passage. Okay, Bhava Jnana Swarupa Siddhi, which Purvapakshi, which is a Vyakhyana Vedantin. Vyakhyana Vedantin or Mula Vidyavadi, you can say anything. Mula Vidyavadi, Vyakhyana Vedantin or Purvapakshi, all the three are same. So, this Vyakhyana Vedantin said in the previous portion, which we have discussed until yesterday, until previous class, that Ajnanam is only a positive substance. It is something positive. He says, no. You watch and observe. See, here is a very interesting thing. Your own experience, right in you, it is there. But in your lack of analysis, there is a confusion in understanding even the experience. Even the universal experience, even the pratyaksha, the perception is confusion. You have to analyze, examine whether it is a right perception or wrong perception. It might be wrong perception. Perception is, but it might be wrong perception. You have to examine it and test it. Then once it survives all testing, then that is a true perception. So here he says, Jagarita Nasti Bhava Vidyanubhavaha. Now coming to the waking. One by one we'll go. In the waking state, there is no positive experience of positive ignorance. Nobody ever has the experience of positive. This is the 23rd point in the Mula Vidya Nirasa book, 27th page. Okay, Sanskrit book I am talking. Page 27, 23rd point in the second chapter. Okay, so 23rd, Jagarite Nasti Bhava Vidyanubhavaha Najanamiti Siddhamanyata. He says there is no experience, nobody has any experience of a positive ignorance. The Purva-Pakshi was talking positive ignorance. He has been talking, taking for granted and trying to defend it, trying to use all logic. But where is it first? It has to be established in your anubhava. It has to be established. Establish means you have to point out, you have to show where it is in your experience. You can't just build up argument, and then that will be a hypothesis. You can build, but that will be hypothesis. Okay? You may build up. We have no objection. But we understand it is hypothesis. You are not pointing out. If it is hypothesis, why worry about it when it doesn't exist in your anubhava? See, we have to solve the problem that is in your anubhava. If you have a pain in your body, then you have to solve it. If the pain is not there, why build up a hypothesis of a pain? Why do you have to build up the hypothesis of pain? Pain is a matter of experience. If you have a pain, then we'll help you to solve it. If you don't feel the pain, then don't worry. He says, no, it is not there in experience, therefore we are building up. Or they say, the experience has to be reinterpreted as if it is something. Now you are reinterpreting, you are wrongly interpreting the experience. Why don't you watch the experience directly? It is so simple and straight. You don't complicate it. He says, Jagarite nasti bhava vidyanubhavaha najanami iti siddhamanyata. Because najanami, he says, I don't know. Simple experience. I don't know is a common experience of everybody. Whatever you don't know, anything you don't know, simply say, I don't know. Purva-Pakshi says, or that Vyakhyana Vedantin says, that I don't know, it is not a word, we are not talking of a statement, talking of an experience. This I don't know sentence refers to some experience in us. Okay? We have some experience. And that experience is referred by the sentence, I don't know. Okay? So, I don't know is an expression of, which is referring to, which is pointing out some experience. So, therefore, he says, that experience doesn't prove a positive ignorance. Najanami iti siddhamanyata, because I don't know experience, that experience of I don't know on examination is understood as no bhava vidya, as no positive ignorance. It is simply a misunderstanding. We shall show you. Now, I don't know is a common experience everybody has. So, Vyakhyana Vedantin says that this experience of I don't know shows the presence of positive ignorance. So, Shankara Vedantin or Swamiji, Shankara Vedantin takes up the same experience and helps them to observe it, to examine it. Let us examine that anubhava, that experience. What does it mean? What does the experience imply? Does it imply a positive ignorance, or what all does it imply? Let us examine the very experience. It simply shows a simple not knowing, a simple misunderstanding. It doesn't show a positive ignorance. This is what we have to explain. Okay? Abhyupagamya bhavarupadya avidyam idam avochama yat paramartha satta pratipakshe durupapada. In the earlier section, the first sentence Swamiji says, in the earlier section we have discussed. What did we say? Paramartha satta. The paramarthic reality cannot be shown according to their prakriya, in their way of teaching. If they accept positive ignorance, mula vidya or bhava vidya. If they accept bhava vidya. So, assuming that there is bhava vidya, Swamiji says, okay, assume that there is bhava vidya. We have pointed out that paramarthik satta cannot be shown. Because you say there is an ignorance in waking, dream and deep sleep. All our experiences show a state of ignorance alone. We have no experience of paramarthik reality. No experience. If it is not there in our experience, then it is totally outside us. It is only a matter of belief, and we don't know whether such thing exists or not. So, in their prakriya, they have taken the waking, dream and deep sleep in such a wrong way they have understood. They have examined and understood wrong way the waking, dream and deep sleep, that they are unable to show where is that absolute reality, paramarthik reality. But unless you show the Paramarthika reality, then anything other than Brahman is Mithya cannot be established. You can't establish anything other than Brahman as Mithya unless you contrast it with the very Brahman experience, universal Brahman. Therefore, the Paramarthika reality must be a universal experience. But they say there is no Paramarthika reality in our experience at all. That is the biggest mistake, very foundational mistake that we have already discussed. Now he says Abhyupagamya, having assumed that Purvapakshis point that there is a Bhava Vidya, positive ignorance. We have pointed out their mistake, that you have no way of showing where is Paramarthika reality. What is Paramarthika reality? You have not shown, you are unable to show. That mistake was shown. Now the next is the very Bhava Vidya itself cannot be established. Earlier, positive ignorance was assumed tentatively for sake of him. Okay, assuming the positive ignorance, you can't show what is Paramarthika reality. Now coming to the next point, the very positive ignorance itself doesn't exist. So he says, Yat Paramartha Satta Pratipakshe Durupapada iti nacha sased marhati kathannarhati yavata tisrishvapi avastashu sasteti pratyakshabhiravagamita. Because they say that jnana exists in waking, dream and deep sleep. All the three states, the positive ignorance exists. Therefore, Paramarthika Satta is not a matter of our experience at all. It is never there in anybody's experience. If Paramarthika Satta, if it is an absolute reality, is not there in anybody's experience, then how do you know that it is there? Netyuchyate bhukta hetubhistada siddhe. Okay. Katham yattavaduktam ja. Okay. Now he says, now the Purvapakshi told that Mula Vidya existed in all three states, waking, dream and deep sleep. Siddhanta is questioning the very Mula Vidya itself, the Bhava Vidya, positive ignorance itself doesn't exist. Positive ignorance doesn't exist at all. Now we shall show it now. We shall show it, the very positive ignorance doesn't exist at all. Earlier we assumed it and pointed out other mistake. Now this very foundational mistake is pointed out, it's wrong. How yattavaduktam jagradavastayam mamaham najanam. Now it is, I think, a bigger topic. Okay, I think 47 minutes we'll discuss, because it's very late. Today has become very late now. I started late. It's a very hot, unbearably hot. Okay, we'll discuss in the next class. This is a very interesting. How I don't know. What does it prove? I don't know this experience. Does it prove positive ignorance? Let us analyze it. Let us analyze it and say, this experience, what does it point out? What does it point out? It's very interesting. Okay, Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om Tat Sat.